Go get your tax return from last year you signed. Read it.
Yeah.
It says, under penalties of perjury. What does that mean? Your accountant didn't tell you that. That is what gives the IRS the power to mess with you because you confess to owing the IRS money under oath. If you don't file, IRS legally has to create a tax proposal and give it a chance to have a full-blown trial in U.S. tax court. And they have under 20 judges.
Welcome to Going Rogue with Lara Logan. My guest is arguably the bravest and boldest man in America. Why do I say that? Well, because Peymon Mottahedeh is taking on the IRS and has been doing so successfully for several decades. I think it's more than 30 years. And what do I mean by taking on the IRS? Well, if you are one of those people who has read The Creature from Jekyll Island, or knows that the Federal Reserve is neither federal nor has any reserves, and has been looking at the U.S. Constitution and wondering why on earth our ancestors did so much in Boston at the Boston Tea Party to not have taxation without representation, but we do nothing about the violations, potential violations of the current tax code against American citizens. So this is a controversial subject. Obviously, it's one that goes right, it reaches into the hearts and homes of people all across America. Every single one of us is affected by this issue. It's something people talk about around the coffee table, and at home at the dinner table. But it's one of those things that nobody wants to talk about in public very much because you get branded a conspiracy theorist, and worse, you could potentially get targeted by the great beast, which is the IRS, the one thing that probably more Americans fear than anything else. So with us today to take on this subject is Payman. And Payman you've had a very interesting history. You are an American citizen. You came here a long time ago when you were much younger, and you are Iranian, but you are also Jewish. And you seem to have no fear. Payman, just tell us, what is your headline that American citizens should not be paying taxes?
Because there's no law requiring the people of the 50 United States to file and pay income taxes. We've been deceived to become slaves.
Okay, can you explain that? What do you mean by there's no law?
Well, the U.S. Constitution was written in a way by the founding fathers that when the states created the federal government, he would not have the power to enslave American people.
Amen to that.
Yes. So the direct taxation by the federal government has to be apportioned or divided up among the states like members of Congress. So when the international bankers created the Federal Reserve System, they didn't want that to be in the way of collecting taxes to pay interest on the debt that the federal government will have, borrowing money made out of thin air by fraud from the Federal Reserve. So they pretended that the 16th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution changed the Constitution and allows the direct taxation of the people of the 50 countries, 50 states, by the Washington, D.C. government. But it did not do so. U.S. Supreme Court has said that the 16th Amendment of the Constitution did not give Congress any new taxing powers.
Let's break that down, right? Because there's a lot there for people to unpack. So when we talk strictly as a matter of law,
right?
And I know you're president of the Freedom Law School. You founded that in 1996, and people can go to your website, freedomlawschool.org. Everything. If there's anything you want to follow up on, if there's anything that's not clear, because I'll be honest, I watched I watched some of these videos over and over again till I really understood them. So your point when it comes to the law, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that the IRS's Bible, right, is the tax code.
Mm-hmm.
And in the tax code, there you go. You guys, you got it right there. In the tax code, when it defines the United States, it says the United States is the definition of the United States, the legal definition for the purposes of the law, is the United States to include the District of Columbia. But it does not mention the 50 states. And so what you have maintained using case law in front of the Supreme Court is that you can't tax people on the basis of implication. You can't say it implies that this includes all 50 states. And then you point to a section in the code regarding, say, gas taxes, where under the definition, it specifically mentions the 50 states and the District of Columbia. And so you're showing the contrast that when it comes to personal income tax, there's no mention of the 50 states. And when it comes to gas taxes, there is specific mention. You know, some people might say you're cherry picking from the law, but it does appear from what you have collected that the United States Supreme Court supports your position. And I tell you what I found one of the most profound things I learned from you is when you took that opinion from that Supreme Court decision that said that where there's any doubt, it falls against the government and in favor of the citizen. I love that, of course. So did I get that right? Or can you tell me, can you expand on that?
No, you're absolutely right about that. In that the United States is not the 50 states in tax law, income tax law, unless otherwise specifically mentioning the 50 states. And this is not my opinion, by the U.S. Supreme Court decisions. And they had to do it this way because otherwise the income tax law would be unconstitutional. It is constitutional only in the District of Columbia. And that's why they wrote the law that way. But the truth is hidden in plain sight in the Internal Revenue Code. This is the federal tax laws, the Bible of the IRS. The definitions are hidden in the back, not in the front for you to see. So we've been scammed and lied to again.
So when was the last time? Have you ever paid taxes?
I haven't filed and paid income tax for over 30 years. I've been on the criminal investigation and other investigations for over 30 years, including today, right now. They never even dared to indict me to try to put me in prison for not filing or paying income taxes because they know in case of a jury trial, I will win, have a lot more bigger name recognition, publicity, and my message will reach a lot more slaves to be free. They don't want that. They'd rather just keep it on the low.
Payman, listen, it is very stressful to have the IRS go after you. Nobody wants that. How have you survived it for 30 years?
Well, because I came to America from Iran, where you have no right to free speech. You could not criticize a king. You could be kidnapped, taken to jail, tortured for how long, executed, just for criticizing the king, Shah of Iran.
Like
so
your
I came
father.
to America, and I said, wait a minute, you Americans, I saw on television, you're supposed to be free people, a free country, but you're not.
Yeah.
Why? You have right of free speech, right to free press, right to bear arms, right to jury trial. So many more tools that you just got to assert it. And I understood the Constitution back in 1992. I was taught by some wonderful patriots in America. I thought, well, all we got to do is just speak up and follow the law, enforce the law on our public servants. They work for us. We don't work for them. So I found our ignorance is the root of the problem. So I started teaching Americans, But I found that most Americans are so being brainwashed to be afraid of the IRS. Whoa, IRS, afraid, whoa, afraid that they don't even look at it.
No.
When women come to my seminars back then, like I invited a bunch of my neighbors and friends, 1992, come hear about this. No one showed up. And I thought, what? Don't you guys want to be educated? Don't you want to be free? And I found out the brainwashing has been very successful. The deep state goes way back to Federal Reserve and income tax in 1913.
Okay, let's talk about that because, you made a wonderful movie and I would encourage everybody to watch it. It's called Slave Nation and you can find it on your website. And I really enjoyed watching it actually. And and it was very easy to follow. It lays out a lot of this and some of your history as well. But just take us through, a lot of people have read The Creature from Jekyll Island. Obviously when the cabal got together, including J.P. Morgan Chase and, people like that. And went to this island in the South, I think off the coast of Georgia, right? And I love the quote in the film about them only using their first names so the servants wouldn't know who was there. And they created an organization. Well, really, they created the central bank system. And I think this is an idea that actually a growing number of Americans are talking about. The idea that the central banks, rather than being, well, they're not banks. First of all, we don't know these kind of things. And secondly, they don't operate to protect us and protect banking. They operate to protect themselves. And in so doing, we are really enslaved by them because we can't get out from this system. So you referred in the beginning to some of the things that were agreed at Jekyll Island. Take us through what those were.
The Federal Reserve is a cartel of private bankers who've been allowed to make money literally by fraud out of thin air. Just like if you go into a garage and print a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Loan it to government at interest.
High interest, by the way.
Yeah, 6% interest was by law. That 6% had to be paid back by federal government. And they didn't want the states to interfere with the federal government collecting tax to pay the bankers. So to facilitate that, they had to create the belief in American people that they need to pay income tax directly to the federal government and bypass their countries, the states, because America is not a country. We are 50 countries, just like the European Union.
Yeah.
So that's what they did successfully in 1913. They got that myth going. Then in the 1930s, they started the payroll taxes, Social Security taxes, very tiny. Then 1940s, during the war, they started withholding from people's paychecks. It was not until the 1950s that they said, okay, we got the Americans suckered good. Let's pretend this thing is really mandatory and really enforcing it. So that's when the Joseph Stalin of the I.R.S. era started. But even Joseph Stalin era ended when in the 60s and 70s, Soviet Union started becoming weaker and weaker. And by 1991 with Gorbachev, it fell apart. And that is what's going on with the I.R.S. right now as we speak. I.R.S. is not the Godzilla that for decades, the media and our own paid accountants, CPA tax attorneys have brainwashed us to believe, oh, they're going to get you. They get you because they deceive you to do the very thing that gives your enemies, the I.R.S., the power. And that is sign that 1040 income tax confession form under oath. You swear you owe the I.R.S. money. You beg the I.R.S. to accept your expenses, deductions, and credits. Otherwise, they can mess with you and take all your stuff. If you don't do that, you are a free man and woman, Lara. Because there's 80 million approximately non-filers already. So one more non-filer, they won't even notice.
80 million non-filers. Where does that number come from, Payman? How do you know that?
Because in 1998, I have a letter on my website, freedomlawschool.org, from the IRS to this guy that says that they estimate that
Mhm.
in 1996 tax year, there was 63 million Americans who did not file tax returns, who IRS believed should have filed a tax return. Based upon the W-2
Yeah,
and 1099 information that
sure.
third parties has got given to the IRS.
Right,
So if you
right.
take that from 96 to
2005.
2026,
Yeah.
80 million plus.
So
Not
really,
much.
it's the IRS's own data that you're using,
Yes.
relying on.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, that's one question here. So if you have filed, because, according to you, when you file that tax return, right, that's a contract between you and the IRS,
For that
correct?
1 year only. Only for that 1 year. Yes.
So having filed your taxes for 1 year or 10 years or whatever it is, if you no longer want to file them according to what you're saying, you don't have to by law.
Just like if you take your vaccine jabs every year, you can stop now. Same thing
Yeah.
with your tax return confession form.
Now, are you not worried that people who follow you but don't maybe have your resources or don't have your resourcefulness are going to get themselves into trouble or maybe end up in prison?
You know, I've done this for decades,
Yeah.
and not even one of my students who came to me clean stopped filing and paying income taxes with me, stayed with me to follow my procedures, has ever gone to tax prison with the IRS for not filing or paying income taxes, nor had their bank account, paycheck levied by the IRS, or home or property taken. That's my track record for over 24 years.
So, of course, in the age of cancel culture and targeted media attacks and all the rest of it, there's plenty of detractors online if you search your name. And they point to this one guy that got into all kinds of trouble. What was anything different about his case?
Sure, Richard Grant had followed other people's methods before he came to Freedom Law School. Then I did some work for him. He was charged. He did not get the attorney that I wanted to work with me. He got his own attorney, which I tried to work with. And so his attorney did not, or neither Richard Grant worked with me. So that's why he lost, because he didn't follow and stay with me. But he had his mother's milk. He went to ABC High School and went to Freedom Law School too. Doesn't mean it was my fault or the ABC High School. If I was wrong, you expect to have dozens and dozens of my students go to prison already, including myself. You look at the proof that the IRS is after me, the head leader, and they can't even get me because they know I'll beat them.
Are you worried that there are IRS agents sitting there listening? They'll be listening to this and they'll be like, we're going to get that guy.
They're listening to me all the time. For 30 years, they've been checking me out. So what? I follow the law. They are the outlaws, and I want to make sure that they follow the law and leave the American people alone. No longer people should be slaves if they take the time to educate themselves by going to our website, freedomlawschool.org.
So, one of the people that you interviewed or that was in your film Slave Nation was Perry Jackson, right? Sherry Perry Jackson, Pierre Jackson.
Yes.
And I was so moved by her because she was an IRS agent. And she had seen the system from the inside. Like some of the best attorneys I know are the ones that were prosecutors, saw what was wrong with the justice system and came into private law to fix it instead of to get a cushy job and use their connections to bury people. And she was very convincing. I have to say, it was disturbing. And she described how all the corporations have accountants and lawyers and everybody. I mean, they have accountants.
Right.
If they want to challenge the IRS or take on the IRS, they can do that easily. But who the IRS really targets, who they come after most, are the individuals, because like you and me, because we don't have any of that.
Individuals that file that 1040 income tax confession from under oath, go get your tax return from last year you signed. Read it.
Yeah.
It says under penalties of perjury. What does that mean? Your accountant didn't tell you that. That is what gives the IRS the power to mess with you because you confess to owing the IRS money under oath. If you don't file, IRS legally has to create a tax proposal and give it a chance to have a full-blown trial in U.S. tax court. And they have under 20 judges. There's no way they can have 20 judges go after 80 million non-files every year. It's impossible. So the trick is stop filing the 1040 form.
Okay, so if people if they want to go to Freedom Law School, right? If they want to follow your method, do you have the capacity to be there for them every step of the way? I mean, how does it work?
Well, they can do it for free on their own, number one. No charge at all. If you go to freedomlawschool.org, and they can stop income tax withholding from their paycheck for free also at our website. However, if people want a guarantee, 100% guarantee that they're not in any way, no matter whatever, lose the IRS, never go to prison, if the IRS ever comes after them, we pay the attorneys, we do the work, and even if we're to lose, the IRS takes their money, we'll reimburse them whatever the IRS took from them. 10,000 or 10 million or more. There's a Restore Freedom Plan. Yes. The Join and Restore Freedom Plan, like America's founding fathers, get together, pitch into it. Now you get the 100% guarantee. So it's optional. Do you want to do it on your own for free? You need it? Keep your money. It's your hard-earned money that belongs to you, not the deep state. On the other hand, not the Epstein gang. On the other hand, if you want to be protected and want to protect other fellow Americans by joining hands and restoring America to its greatness, to its freedom, you want to be part of the solution, the Restore Freedom Plan is for you.
Wow. What happens when the IRS is auditing you? Is there a restriction on the amount of times that they're allowed to audit you year after year without finding any evidence of wrongdoing?
Well, that's not really relevant because technically they can go after you 50 years ago if you don't file, but that doesn't matter. The issue is the IRS does not use the W-2 information that your employer sends the IRS.
Yeah.
Or the 1099s or the K-1 forms. They don't use them basically against non-filers. They use them primarily against filers because that challenges your 1040 form you sign under oath that they can put you in prison with that signature.
Yeah.
For 3 separate federal tax crimes, combined 9 years of prison for one signature you voluntarily gave to the IRS. If you don't do that, at most is 1 year, which we can make it 0 because we recommend everybody write your congressman. These petitions have the law in them. Quote it and attach. Say, Congressman, I owe 0. I'm telling you that the law is on my side. If I'm wrong, show me. You stop the deep state. You have the power. You should do that. But if I'm wrong, tell me, and I will pay my fair share of taxes. And how many times has the congressman shown us wrong? 0 times. Because we are right. And they know it. As long as they got you bamboozled in your brain, they control your belief that IRS will get you if you don't file, they have you as a slave.
You have 7 basic steps to follow, right? Can you take us through them briefly?
Sure. Number 1, follow the law. We teach you why the people in the 50 states are not required to file and pay federal income taxes. Only the residents and citizens of Washington, D.C. basically have to pay income taxes. Step 2, stop following those 1040 confession forms. Stop listening to that CPA, accountant, tax attorney who does not know the law. They pretend to know the tax law, but they don't. They're just form fillers, basically. Okay? Because that's when you start being free. Step 3 is realize that the IRS gets its power based upon deception and bluff. Just like the corona hoax, they convince people that you'll die if you don't take the vaccine and don't have 6 feet apart and lockdown not going to work. And people lined up to get the jab. Many people did voluntarily.
Not me.
Not you, not me, but the vast numbers of people did.
Crazy numbers of people fell for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So people say, oh, if I don't file, they're going to pick on me. No, there's already 80 million people that don't file, that you join them when you stop filing the 1044. So you'll be just fine. They're attacking fathers because they're slaves by that 1040 signature. Step 4 is, as I said, write your lawmakers. They work for you. You are the boss. Act like it. Think like it. Say, here's the petitions for free at freedomlawschool.org. Show me where I'm wrong, and I will pay my fair share of taxes. Certified mail, you have a record of that in case the IRS wants to come after you criminally.
Yeah.
You look at the jury. Here it is. Jury, I ask. I did my homework. And with your good faith, by law, you could not go to prison. The government must prove your bad faith to not pay taxes you believe you owe. And they cannot do that with these petitions. So you'll be free. So those are the absolutely free steps. The optional ones is, number 5, none of my students have gone to prison, as I said. And none of my students ever had their bank account or paycheck levied by the IRS or more property taken. I've done this for 24 years plus, this program. Now comes step 6, the Restore Freedom Plan, modeled after America's founding fathers. They don't pay the T-tax. They pay George Washington and the founding fathers to come together and restore freedom. But the difference is, they shed blood, we won't. No risk to you. You're 100% protected. Put a portion of the money you would have given to the Epstein gang, put it toward Restore Freedom. We're going to support freedom broadcasters to tell the truth to Americans. We're going to have our super PAC that will bring hundreds of millions and billions to get more Ron Pauls on Thomas Massey's elected that believe in American people's rights. Freedom is the Constitution. That's when we'll argue our country back, and our children and grandchildren will be free.
So basically, it's getting politically involved to get like-minded people elected. That's number 6.
Yes. And step 7 is tell everybody else about it. Love the truth. Tell them about freedomlawschool.org, our website, and let's get the word out to get our country back from the Epstein gang.
Because the more people are aware of this and talking about this, so the more people that do it, the greater the pressure on our political leaders.
We actually defund them. No, we don't have pressure. We defund them. Without our money, they cannot do all these wars and evil stuff they're doing, can they?
Well, no. Although there is the External Revenue Service with the tariffs, and there are other ways that they make money. But sure, this is the number one way that we fund our government, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, step 7
is tell everybody about us. Open your mouth. Share the truth. Tell your family members, friends, coworkers, people in your community, go online, social media, tell them about Freedom Law School. Tell them, hey, you don't have to feel helpless to support the communist Democrats or the war-hungry Republicans. There is a third way, the founding fathers' way. We are doing to restore freedom. Stop filing and paying income taxes by educating yourself. You don't need to be afraid. They got you brainwashed to be afraid to not have to die at the corner jab or that you have to file a 1040 form. Neither one was true. Look at this guy. He's done it for over 30 years openly, teaching Americans. If he can do it as an immigrant, you can do as Americans born here easier.
So what was the moment that you realized that, as you put it, the American people were not free as they thought they were?
Well, back in the early 80s, in my economics classes at the University of California, I learned about, libertarianism, and I became a Libertarian Party member, activist in 89. By that time, I already knew, And back in 92, though, I heard about this in a talk radio program in LA, KFI show. And then I went to the meeting she had and was like, what? Why are we paying them Republicans, the Unity Party? We're going to elect libertarians by not paying income taxes we don't owe. And now we can have money to elect Ron Pauls and Thomas Massey's of today to get our country back, because that's ultimately what we have to do.
Okay, well, what about people who don't support Rand Paul and Thomas Massey?
We don't want to support, elect someone that defends your rights, believe in the U.S. Constitution was made and written to protect your rights, protect your freedoms. They work for you, not the big banks and corporations and all these crooks, powerful, moneyed interest. The problem is politicians are forced to be slaves, whores of the people, billionaires with money, Epstein gang.
Yes.
And the average person has no money to support them, so they'll represent you because you don't help them get elected. So if you have your money in your pocket, now you can support the guys that you believing that are standing up for you, the American people first, not all these billionaire Epstein class people and the money-hungry crooks.
So when you see that the federal government now under Trump has taken $10 billion of funding away from the IRS, what do you think that means?
That is great news, Lara.
I thought you might say that.
Because I.R.S. is in shambles. It was in shambles already. In 2011, they started a very major decline with forced collections have dropped by over 90%.
Why?
Because they're such a lazy, disorganized, irresponsible organization running on 1960s COBOL computers that they cannot come after. The corruption has set in the same way the communist Soviet Union, that powerful dictatorship of Joseph Stalin, collapsed from within, of inefficiency, of corruption, waste, laziness. That is going on right now with that communist entity called the I.R.S. It's really slavery. And we wake up, the Gulliver just got to wake up, see these bureaucrats have enslaved us. If we wake up as Gulliver, we can take our country back.
Okay, so you said it started in 2011, and then what?
Well, the IRS is just a really incompetent agency. I mean, I'll give you an example. In 2020, the Treasury auditors gave a report about the IRS that they're leaving high-income non-filers alone. People that make over $100,000 a year and don't file, the IRS is leaving them alone. And they said, you need to get these guys. Otherwise, the slave's going to get away and be free. So one of the things they did, they said, look, IRS, here's a list of 100 richest non-filers that we identified that they each owe the IRS about $100 million. Go after them. Collect that easy $10 billion. What was the IRS answer? Take a hike. We're not going to do it.
So you compiled the list and gave it to the IRS?
No, the U.S. Treasury auditors did that.
Oh, the U.S. Treasury auditors did
they
that.
got the top of the IRS. They could not spare 10 agents to each of them go after just 10 of these people that they each owe the IRS non-filers. High income, $100 million.
How do you know about this? Is this list public?
Yes, and you can see it on our website, freedomlawschool.org. You can call us. We'll guide you on our website at 813-444-4800. We'll lead you to the answers you want. It's on our website for free.
Okay, so then Biden comes in though, and he says, so, okay, hi, here, IRS, we want 80,000 more agents,
Mhm.
and here's all your, here's a whole bunch of money for you.
Mhm.
And now we learned that the IRS also has millions of dollars worth of weapons and ammunition stored. So what do you make of all that?
It doesn't matter how many of those toys they got in stores sitting. It doesn't matter. They don't collect taxes that way. Okay. They collect taxes because employees are forced by the employers to sign a W-4 form to allow the employer to steal their money, give it to the IRS. We can stop that for free on our website, freedomlawschool.org, how to stop that income tax withholding. Number two, business owners, independent contractors are suckered by their accountants, CPAs, that, oh, you better pay me to make sure you get the Corona jab tax form, 1040 form, to be safe from the IRS. So they say, okay, I'll pay on my own to the IRS and I'll sign the form. You tell me, accountant, CPA, who knows nothing about the law. They're just form fillers for the I.R.S. So that's how they get you. If we stop that, it's over for them. It will collapse like the Soviet Union collapsed.
Do you think it's going away? Do you think is that in the cards? I mean, I asked lots of people this question. I mean, it's been defunded by $10 billion. They're not sending out they're not getting those 80,000 agents they were talking about.
Right.
So is the IRS going away? Is that what the External Revenue Service is really about?
Well, Laura, to be honest with you, back in 1992, when I was 29 years old, this is all black hair.
Yeah.
That was my vision. That was my dream. To have America be free. Who knows the future? But I'm working on it. And I believe very firmly that if I can reach the American people, and I know American people love America, love this country, the greatest on earth ever been is America. If they love America, put that love to educate themselves, number one, okay? And get out of the matrix. You know, like in movie Matrix, he says, I know Kung Fu. If they program themselves with the truth, like the movie Matrix Neo did, right? Then tell others, we can get out of the matrix. America can be great and free for all Americans once again.
Well, that is a wonderful dream. I share that dream. I want America to be great and free for all Americans. I thank you so much, Payman, for your time. I thank you for your courage. It really is quite inspiring. And I know there's probably a lot of people out there with questions. You've said it very well. They can go to your website, freedomlawschool.org, and presumably they can contact you on there as well, can they?
And we encourage people to call us. We'll be happy to answer your question by phone, direct you to the information to verify everything for yourself. Our number is 813-444-4800. The only thing that stops you being from free is you choosing to remain a slave and not seeking the truth. Seek the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Yes, it is the wonderful thing about this country. People here are so empowered, and you and I are both immigrants, naturalized citizens. This is our home, and I share your pride and your love for this country. And of course, there's a bunch of Americans who figured this out long before us, right? And just they were dismissed. They were cast into the wilderness. They were disregarded, written off as crazy. And now what's coming out more and more and more is that, they were right.
That's right. I mean, I was talking back in late 80s and early 90s about the corruption of the federal government. But average American did not realize that, until I think the last 10 years has really woken up the people to the power of the deep state with the corona lockdowns they did, the censorship that they did, the January 6ers, they claim it was an insurrection. It wasn't anything like that. People say, wait a minute, this is our own government? With Ray Epps, these FBI guy getting people to go in the January 6th into a trap. That's our government. And now they're saying, oh, Trump supposed to be our savior, and I voted for Trump. And I say, wait a minute. He was not America first. He was Israel first to begin with. Now we're in a no-win war, far more difficult than Vietnam or or Iraq. So say, who is there that truly represents the American people? I think really people like Thomas Massey, Roy Connor, Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's a few people like that in Congress out there that, try to expose the Epstein gang. Okay. We gotta get a lot more people like that in there, but that will happen when you stop paying the criminals in DC, have the money saved for your family, and if you choose, I hope you choose to support this movement, our Restore Freedom, by getting together and assist us in this fund, this movement, to take America back with our Restore Freedom plan.
Well, I have to, put the other side of that there to you is we don't know yet how this war is going to turn out. It may turn out to be a Vietnam War, it may not. And, the counter argument is that Iran has been at war with the U.S. for 47 years and that this is ending a war, not starting a war. Certainly Trump has look at all the things that he's trying to do, whether it's the source of funding for the deep state that comes out of the cartels in Mexico, or the funding and the election engineering and stolen elections that come out of Venezuela, all of whom work with the CCP, work with the Iranians, work with the North Koreans. America's enemies are aligned with America's internal domestic enemies. And taking on the deep state is a massive undertaking because, as you point out, right, this goes all the way back to 1913 when those bankers met on Jekyll Island. So hopefully, because the Thomas Masseys and the Rand Pauls, the reality is they're not president. They're not in that position right now. And we are on the verge of being in a position where those who take power, if they can, are going to abolish the Electoral College, amend the Constitution. You only needed 2/3 of the states to amend the Constitution. And right now, how many Democrat-controlled states are there? How many Rhino-controlled states are there? More than 20. So, you're not that far away. So, not that anybody's perfect, right? Because they're not. But it just, it certainly is a moment. You're absolutely right. In the last 10 years, the veil has really been lifted, whether you call it red pilling, whatever you call it, the veil has been lifted and people are more encouraged to talk about this. But you were doing this long before that. You were doing this when it was really hard to do this. And when it was really terrifying. It's still scary, but it was really terrifying. When you're alone on the battlefield, right? When you're looking to the left and you're looking to the right, that is not an easy place to be. So, but it's because people have been willing to challenge and plug away at this and take the risk that all of us can at least start asking the questions. So I think your point is educate yourself, right? Don't be afraid to ask questions.
That's
educate yourself. If you're interested in hearing more about this particular subject, then you're available. Your staff is available. I just find that what motivates me, Payman, what resonates with me in my heart about what you've done, and what you're doing now, is that I see how hard people work. I live in a small country town in a wealthy county in Texas. There's a lot of wealthy people here, but there's a lot of poor people here. And I just know that when you're working 2-3 jobs and you will never own your own home, or you'll never purchase a new car, when your kids don't have Thanksgiving and they get socks and and underwear and maybe a couple T-shirts for Christmas, right? That's not the American dream. The American dream is not to work so hard and then have to give away so much of what you earn to people who it doesn't make any sense. Like you said, the bankers, the U.S. Mint makes the money. They don't even make it. But they own it. And then they loan it to the federal government, and we have this escalating debt that's fake. In many ways, that debt is fake. So I don't have all the answers. I'm by no means a financial expert. I'm by no means a tax expert. You know a lot more about that side of it than I do. But what I know is that when people start asking questions, The truth really does matter. And there is only one truth. The Federal Reserve is either federal or it's not. It either has reserves or it doesn't. The IRS is either a private corporation that was incorporated in Puerto Rico, right? Or it isn't. And the law is what it is. And the Supreme Court has made the rulings that it has made. So whether we're brave enough to challenge it or whether you support that or you don't support that, I'm just grateful to you for not just asking the questions, but being brave enough to live and walk that path. And I think that's inspiring.
I suggest this, though. It doesn't really take bravery. Honestly, people give me a lot of accolades for that. But truly, I believe that the confidence comes with knowledge and the slavery comes with ignorance. Think about the corona jab. The people who took the corona jab voluntarily were ignorant. That's why they lined up, many of them, to get the jab on their own. Oh, doctor, I'm a good person. I follow what you say. Give me the jab because I want to be safe. It was all ignorance. Same thing with the income tax. The only challenge is this ignorance about the IRS is ingrained in our heads for many decades, close to 100 years, our parents and grandparents. So it takes a little bit more reading and research to get out of it. But I'm telling you, if you, as you drive around town on your smartphone, listen to our videos at freedomlawschool.org, and then at lunch or dinner, watch them again and verify the truthfulness of it, you'll know the truth, and you will no longer be slave. You can catch up with your bills, have some savings, have a better life, stress-free that you deserve. And if you want that 100% guarantee also to restore freedom in America as well, the Restore Freedom Plan is an option available for you. So no matter what, it starts with education at freedomlawschool.org or call us at 813-444-4800. We'll guide you to our website.
Can they find you on social media? Are you also out there?
Yes, on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, or on Odyssey. We're everywhere. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much again for making time for us, Payman. Thank you for blazing a trail and leading the way. Thank you for not going to jail. Because that's very reassuring. And take care of yourself.
Thank you for having me, Lara.
Okay, so you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. Send this out to as many people as you can. Start asking these questions. Educate yourself. If you're already educated, you may have found that you're not alone. So reach out to Peymon Mottahedeh and the Freedom Law School. And as always, thank you for being bold enough to go rogue with Lara Logan.